Alright, welcome to this tutorial. I'm just going to go over some basics on photo restoration. Anyway, first thing you want to do is definitely import it into Camera Raw, where you can adjust a lot of really neat features just right off the bat, so you maybe save yourself some time later on. First thing I'm going to go ahead and do is convert this to grayscale. And I noticed when they scanned it in, there are some blue glare from the actual scanner. So in grayscale, I see that those blues I want to get rid of. So if I convert to grayscale like that, I can click on the blues right here and actually tone those down. I'm just going to go ahead and do some quick adjustments with that. Anyways, next thing I want to do is adjust the exposure a little bit. I want to get my blacks down and my whites up so that I've got more of a broad color spectrum to work with. So the thing in the focus is just don't worry about so much the background. The background isn't really what the subject is. The subject is right in front of you. So if you ignore the background, you're probably a lot better off. Alright, and then I'm just going to go ahead and open the object in Photoshop. First thing I'm going to do is obviously duplicate the picture because you want to keep an original copy. We're just going to call this original. I'm going to call this layer background. We're going to be mostly just working with the background. I'll hold on to the original just in case I need to go back, basically. Okay, first thing I want to do is get rid of, just kind of go through and kind of clean it up. There's a lot of scratches and creases throughout this whole photo, so a big part of what I'm going to be doing is creating a new layer. I'm just going to call it cleanup. So this is a blank layer that basically I'm going to be creating to cover up all of these scratches by just using right over here on the left side. So the two tools I use the most is the healing brush tool and then the stamp tool, or the clone stamp tool. They work in tandem really well together. I like using the healing brush tool because it automatically kind of blends things together. The stamp tool works really well too. You just have to be careful because you don't want a whole lot of repeating surfaces. So I tend to mostly start with the healing brush tool and then switch over to the stamp. Alright, so I'm going to start with the healing brush. And you basically pick a part on his skin that would, look good, and go ahead and sample it by hitting Option, and then you want to just cover it over. Boom, just like that. That's all there is to it, really. You sample with Option, and then cover over. So find a place that isn't scratched and make it okay, and it'll automatically blend everything together with this tool. The other one you can do is the clone stamp tool right here, and it does pretty much the same thing, except it doesn't really blend. Which is good for different things, so both work fine. I'm going to pretty much stick to the healing brush tool for this though, and I'm just going to go to town. Okay, this kind of situation is where I would use the stamp tool. The stamp tool works really well with the high contrast areas, so there's a really dark right here and really white right here. The problem with trying to use the healing brush tool is it actually, there's too much contrast, because what it basically does is it takes its surroundings and tries to blend them. So it'll give it, like, I'll give you an example right now. So if I were to sample right here and try to get rid of that little teeny dot right there, so sample, try to get rid of that. If you notice, it's all white right here because of this contrasty white right here. So this is exactly why I would use switch over to the stamp tool, just so I can sample up here and I get exactly that color when I'm doing that. So that's when to use that. Okay, so this is where you start making decisions on what's really important in the photo. I mean, I could go through and completely restore all these sections, but the fact that this is a rather low resolution photo gives me a lot less pixels to work with. One thing I like to do is to just blur out backgrounds, give it just a really high depth of field. It saves you a lot of time, a lot of extra effort, so it's exactly what I'm going to do with this one, especially since I want to keep this tutorial short. I'm pretty sure you don't want to watch me slowly brush in all these creases and stuff like that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge up all these layers that I have so far right here. I'm going to have this be my blur layer. I'm going to go ahead and go filter, blur, and what I'm going to do is probably just a nice iris blur. I'm going to move it right on into the subject's face, and you can actually independently control these little handles by holding down options, so I can actually specifically target exactly his face. Okay, so this is just a really quick and dirty tutorial. There's obviously I could spend a whole lot more time, especially working on the background kind of closer to his face where it's not blurred out. I'm obviously seeing this giant dot right up there, which, you know, I could easily go through and create a new cleanup layer even, and then get rid of it. But for all intents and purposes, that's kind of how you work. That's kind of the general workflow in trying to restore old photos. It's a lot easier than you think. It's mostly just painting over, you know, all these imperfections, cracks, creases, and stuff like that. There's a little bit more advanced features too, like actually painting in the blur with a layer mask and using a Gaussian blur, but I just did an iris blur because it's a little bit quicker. Anyway, so if you just kind of want to, I'm going to group all these layers together so you can kind of see it before and after. So this is before, obviously not looking all that great, a lot of scratches, a lot of creases, especially over his face. Turn that on, you see the after, and it looks much, much better.